Welcome to the Kawartha Small Business Podcast, where we believe the Kawarthas can be the most thriving region in Canada for small business. I'm Brian Rump from Profit Coach.
And I'm Matt Garrity of Managing Digital.
All right, Matt, today we are talking about one of my favorite subjects, and that is designing your business for your life. And this is based on an exercise that I stole from Rob Nixon, and he stole from somebody else. And we'll sort of adapt it and go through it, but there's some kind of cool uh, things to realize in this. And the main one being, if you are a small business owner, you have to remind yourself that it is your business and you need to design it for your life and what you want. And if you get down and stuck in something, you have to realize that this is what you were designed for yourself and chose it.
Yeah, it's true. It's the reason why most business owners probably start a business because they want something that suits their life. I'm sure there's fun situations why we start businesses. We think we can make more money. We think that we can do it better than other people. Some people are maybe thrust into businesses, family businesses, where now there's a bit of a succession plan or inheritance, or not forced, but no one else is going to run it. So son or daughter has to run it now. But I do think most of the reasons why people start a business, probably, I don't know if you would agree, is because we're like, let's design something that's going to work best for my life.
Oh, yeah. And that's what it should be. And I think most people, you know, go into business because of freedom. They want freedom over time and their money
Yeah.
and freedom to do things the way they think it should be done. And I think what happens is people forget they're in the driver's seat, and they end up running a business by default. And, part of this exercise, and it's something that I think everyone should do at least once a year with their small business, is to, make sure that your business is designed for what you want it to be for your lifestyle, because it's really easy to get off track fast. And so that as we go through this, we'll sort of point out, where it's easy to get off track like that.
Oh, for sure. I think that was a big reason why I started my business. There's hundreds of reasons, but that was up there. My kids were pretty young. I'm trying to do some math now. They're what, 3 and 1 or 2? No, that can't be right. That's scary.
Yeah.
They were that young, and I was like, hey, this is a great idea to start a business on my own when I'm the only person bringing revenue into the house. Sure. Yeah, and they were young, and I for a year or a couple of years was working at a job where when my first son was born, I remember racing out of the office and racing home to like see him for a little bit, basically before I went to bed. And I didn't even see him for like an hour or two a day, which really sucks, right? So
Yeah.
I remember like that was a big factor going into like starting my own business, and it's challenging to keep up with that and stay focused on that. And honestly, I compliment my wife because she's often been the one where she's like, "What's the point of you running your own business if you can't do the things that you want to do? Like just kind of mess off when you need to, go to certain things that you might not have been able to go out for lunch on Fridays for no apparent reason, stuff like that."
Yeah, and I think you do a good job of remembering those things. And there's always going to be trade-offs, but it's figuring out what those trade-offs are, what those boundaries are, and like working towards what you want. So when we go through this exercise, there's 5 sort of questions or areas, and one is deciding what your business life looks like. So that's how many hours are you working? How many of those hours are sort of the chargeable hours of like what you do, sort of the in your business versus on your business. How many holidays are you taking? Right? Are you taking a month off in the summer or a few weeks in the summer? Are you shutting it down, Christmas to New Year's? Like you have to sort of design that type of stuff. What activities are you going to focus on and, charge for? So those are the things you need to sort of set up and really define what does your business life look like, and realize like you're in the driver's seat for that. And if you want to take summers off, you can design a business around taking the summers off. You just need to realize that that's a choice, and that's something you need to design other parts of your business around. And it's where you should be starting.
Yeah, and I don't think many people actually design it though. I think we're all like, okay, I want to have a certain lifestyle, I want to do things a certain way, but it's more of a this is what I want, and they don't ever plan for it. They don't design it like you're about to go through.
Yeah, and I think, and we'll get through this. The opposite of sort of a business by design is a business by default. And that's where I think people get into something and they're like, well, hey kids, I'd love to take, Christmas off, but this customer wants something and I need to get it done. And, sorry about that, maybe next year. We'll sort of break that down later, but that's, where it starts is choosing what that business life looks like, what those boundaries are. And then later we realize the things we need to do, to make that work. But that's where you have to put your priorities and sort of help make your, other decisions.
It's absolutely a choice, though. You keep saying, choose to do this, choose to do this. It is a choice. And I think that's what we often forget. And that's where I get frustrated, because I get frustrated a lot when I hear other business owners talk. And I maybe shouldn't say that out loud, but it's probably pretty clear if you have listened to me talk on this podcast before. Yeah. But I hear it a lot. You hear a ton of excuses. Oh, we got to do it this way. This is how we do things. We have to do it. And I'm always in my head thinking, you don't have to do any of the things that you're describing. Yeah. That's a choice that you're making.
Yeah. And like sometimes the first step is realizing it's a choice, right? So the next choice is your numbers. So you get to, as your business, you get to decide what your revenue is. You get to decide what your profit is. You get to decide how many clients you work with, how many locations you have, the size of your location. You get to decide what KPIs you're going to follow. You get to decide what you want your personal wealth to be. And then every business on its own might break down a little bit more to, things like what equipment you have, what tools you use, like all of these sort of numbers, things we can quantify, are choices that you could make.
I was honestly just laughing, thinking about most of the business owners that are listening to this right now are cursing your name. And they're like, yeah. I don't want to swear. I've never sworn on this podcast. But they're like, Brian, that is not true. You are lying to me. And they're like, no, absolutely not. I do not have a choice of how much revenue I'm going to make. I do not have a choice of my profit. I do not have a choice of how many clients I work with. They don't believe you.
I know. And that's, hopefully when I sort of get to the end of this, maybe you'll start believing me a little bit. Maybe someone's going to listen and call me out on it, book an appointment to talk to me about it, which I would love to do. But it absolutely is a choice. Now, you don't just choose, okay, I want $1 million revenue and it happens. You have to then do the activities, design the rest of your business so that happens. But, it is something you design for. $1 million revenue business and $100 million revenue business are completely different things. And there's a series of choices you make if you want to do that. Same with personal wealth. If you want personal wealth in, say, the few $1 million range, which is relatively modest, I think we're trained to not think that's rich, but relatively modest versus, Jeff Bezos level. Like, you have to make other choices for that. You can't just sort of wish it will happen and it magically does happen. Like, you've got to make some, choices in there. So, if you want personal wealth where you're accumulating say 200,000 a year wealth, you need to design a business that's structured to do that. Otherwise, if your sales are only 200,000, like you're never going to accumulate the wealth at the pace you need. So these are the choices you need to make. And sometimes it's hard truths that you have to face, or you have to redesign something, hire a coach, get some help. But, you have to first start by realizing that all of these numbers are a choice that you have to make and design for.
Yeah, it's true. And I was even thinking about excuses. Like, well, we talk all the time about if I'm selling bananas at the end of my driveway, I'm never going to sell $1 million worth of bananas. That's not true. If we wanted to sell $1 million and I happen to be selling bananas at the end of my driveway, we could put together a plan to sell $1 million worth of bananas.
Make banana land. Right?
Yeah. I don't know, if I'm jumping ahead, but I'm sure you'll talk about not tactics, but there's financial stuff, there's organization, there's marketing. I'm the one that said it 11 minutes into it. But it's all about, yes, we can do anything. People are like, oh, I sell cups of coffee. I'm not going to ever sell $10 million worth. That's not true. Shirts, you can do all this stuff. It just needs to be planned properly.
Yeah, you can do it. So, so we're, when we're designing, we're starting with our business life. We choose that. We choose our numbers. Now we choose our services. So what are those services or products that we are going to sell? And again, this is intentionally by design as well. And I think especially with small businesses, the biggest mistake is people start doing too much too fast because they want to expand, they want to have more products, more services. But at some point, you have to decide what are those services that are going to meet those numbers. Again, if you want to sell, make $1 million, it's really hard to do that if you're selling things that cost $1, right? Whereas maybe you're selling things that cost $100,000. So you're making different, types of decisions to, feed those numbers. So typically with a small business, you really have to start with what you're best at, where you add the most value, and where your margins are.
It's hard in any case, whether you're selling something for $1 or you're selling something for $100,000, and each of those need to make $1 million. You would think that the $100,000 price tag would be easier. It's not probably true.
Probably, yeah. It's not necessarily easier, but it's the designing around that.
Yeah, you have to sell less items or units, but selling something for $1 versus $100,000, the $100,000 sale is much harder to do.
Oh yeah, and there's this one in the services. There's are you solving problems people have and are willing to pay for, and what's profitable? There's a lot that goes into designing the services of that business, but it's your choice. If you're busy offering stuff that's not profitable and it's not meeting your wealth goals, that's a choice, and you have to make that choice to stop doing that or change it, or constantly look to create new maybe products and services that adapt to what the market wants. But at the end of the day, it's still your choice. You can choose whether to offer something or not. And lots of people, you'll see that they'll just stop offering something that's kind of a waste of their time and doesn't meet their overall needs.
Yeah, how do people stop making those bad choices then?
I think that's comes with a bit of a service review and really telling the truth about it. And I think where I see people getting lost sometimes is the services that aren't profitable sometimes make sense to offer because they lead to something that is profitable.
Sure.
Or it gets you in the mind of somebody who can take your upgraded services. But then other times you think that, but it's not actually true. So, really look at the path of like who your most profitable customers are, how they got there, and if they even care about that sort of lost leader type service or product.
Yeah, it's like business cards. If you're ever buying business cards for 30 to $50, that person's losing money on that job, or they're making almost no profit. So
Yeah. Yeah. And like that, those are the things where, yeah, sometimes people stop doing it, but other times that's just a lead in, right? Because they're like, oh, hey, if you need business cards, you're going to need all these other things that I offer and can help you with.
yeah, and I've learned
And
a
that could be
little.
by design.
Yeah, I've learned a little bit about movie theater finances in the past year. Not a lot, but just very high level, surface level, and starting to understand a lot more why it's necessary for the concessions, like the food, the popcorn, the drinks, to be so expensive, because the money that the theaters make on movie tickets, it's actually not very much. And it's almost surprising how little it is.
Oh, yeah, it's like Costco. If you break down Costco's numbers, they basically run a break even business and charge for a membership that is equals what their entire profit is, right? So, like, understanding those mechanics sometimes is really important. Um, so when we design our services, the next thing that we design and choose, and this is another one where people might want to fight me, is your culture. So the kind of work environment that you want to deliver, the types of employees that you want to have, the types of relationships you have with customers, all of these things are a choice that you design and have influence for over. So if you're a business owner and you're complaining about, you know, staff not doing their jobs or not being motivated or not excelling, it's your fault, and it's the way you've designed it. So, you decide, the types of skills that you want. You decide the opportunities you want to create for people. You decide the physical environment you're in, right? Are you going to be in a nice, awesome, modern office with like ergonomic equipment? Or are you going to be in sort of like a yard sale thrift store type of place where everyone's banging away on old computers that you found and got refurbished and hacked together?
I hear that a lot. That's There's a lot of things that drive me crazy, apparently, but the one where it's we can't find people to work for us, we are having a hard time finding staff, but we are really hard on people. We do have high expectations, and I'm always fascinated to know what are you doing with those new people then? Like, what's your training? Do you have training? Are you basically introducing them on the first day and shadowing people the whole time? Like, come on.
Yeah, yeah, being surprised that they don't know how to do the job already. And that's where like some people really excel at this. They have a very intentional culture in their business. They hire people, there's a training program, there's a way we do things here, which can be, some people sort of are frown upon the, oh, this is the way it's always been done, sort of limiting thoughts. But then there's also the, like, this is how we do it, like the song, this is how we do it. Like, you should be playing that, like, this is how we do that here. That's not Trooper. That's I forget who that is at the moment. But it's when you want to think about and like you could create that the culture that you want. If you want a fun, lively place where people are joking and having fun at work, you can have that. I know another place that they refuse to like let people talk or have the radio playing, so people had to like sit in silence and do their work. They chose that. So like again, you get the good and the bad with that, but you choose and you design what culture it is you want at your business.
Yeah, it's fascinating. Like, I know all of this and I feel all of this, but at the same time, it's interesting to hear someone else say it out loud.
Yeah, and it's hard. I'm not saying all these things are easy, right? But it's, you start with designing your business life. You design what numbers you want. You decide the products and services you sell. You decide the culture that you're going to have at your business. Um, and then finally, also decide who your clients are. And again, everyone's going to fight me on this one as well, but you pick who you're going to serve. So you could do that with the design of your business. Are you selling a general product that's for kind of everyone, and nothing's actually for everyone,
No.
or is it very niche and you're picking and choosing your clients, you know, how they do business with you, what your fees are, the size of projects that you do, all of these things are, you know, designed by you and are a choice.
I've told people this for years, that every business is a niche, and a lot of people get annoyed when I'm like, "Oh, we're in a niche business," and they're like, "What? I sell T-shirts, or I sell whatever marketing. Everyone needs marketing." Like, the only thing that's not a niche business is groceries. Everyone eats. That's it. Not everyone wears men's clothes. Not everyone wears women's shoes. Like these, not everyone watches TV. Not everyone likes pizza. Everything is a niche except for groceries. Everything else
Even
is a
groceries
very,
are,
yeah, well, yeah,
are a niche. Yeah, like there's ways to differentiate there and choose who your customers are, right? The customers at Whole Foods are different than Price Chopper, right? Completely different. Um, yeah, or No Frills, right? Different market, different things that you're looking at. Like it's a choice. So if you are, we should do a whole other episode, people complaining about customers. Usually it's your design. If you're not getting the right customers, and I've done this as well, one of the things I am known for and probably do a poor job communicating is grants. And all sorts of people will show up or refer like the complete wrong customer for what I actually do. And like that's on me for how I communicate it. Now there's some people who just don't listen. I'll say things like, "Oh, I get grants for, food and beverage manufacturers who have 10 to 20 employees." And they'll be like, "All right, here's this not-for-profit art organization that really could use some money. Can you help them?" And that is sort of frustrating. Um, but if I'm designing that niche, I'm choosing who the customers are that I'm working with. You don't have to serve every single person that shows up to you.
you probably shouldn't either. Some businesses are more of a numbers game, and you need like a somewhat steady flow of people going through your business. But other businesses, I'd say certain service businesses, they don't need a steady flow of people. They need a few of the right customers. And you do hear complaints, especially from a marketing perspective. Well, we're not getting the right people onto the website, or we're not getting the right types of customers. It's not really a marketing problem in certain cases, but there is an opportunity for you to be very clear in your messaging about who it is that you're helping, what problems you're trying to solve. And on the other side of things, be prepared if you are used to everyone coming to you to all of a sudden that really dry up. And if you're making efforts and strides to move forward in the right direction marketing wise, and if you're trying to appeal to everyone and then you're changing that messaging, don't be surprised the next 3, 6, 12 months maybe it's going to be a lot more quiet. So,
Yeah. Yeah. And that's, again, it's by design, and you could, tweak marketing to fix these designs. You could tweak, in the end, a lot of it does come down to marketing. But there's things about your business you could tweak to align to, do you have a business that's designed for your life, right? And business by design goes design your business life, choose your numbers, choose your products and services, choose your culture, choose your clients. If we're going business by default, it's the exact opposite. So people, don't choose their clients, and they just take everyone who shows up, and they react to what those clients want. And then you end up with whatever culture you have of everyone trying to serve all these clients, doing, trying to make everyone happy. Then your service ends up being what those people dictate or want. So at maybe the prices they want as well. So you end up reacting to sort of the staff you have and the clients you have doing things maybe you don't want to be doing, but you just, hey, do it anyway because that's the way it is. Then your numbers sort of just end up being whatever they are from that. And you don't have control over setting that revenue and profit level because you've decided that your clients maybe don't want to pay it, or they want, everyone wants some cheap, good services. So you sort of roll over and say, yeah, sure, we'll do that for you. We'll work sloppy and waste some money, and you end up not being profitable, and then your business life comes last at the end of that, and it just ends up being what it is for that. So you end up being too busy, not profitable, your personal wealth's not growing, you're not at home all the time, you're busy, you're not having fun. Like, that's the business by default. And if you're in that trap of business by default, like, the first step is realizing like you have choices and it's by design, and you should, if you were to start fresh with a blank piece of paper and design your business, you start, business life, numbers, services, culture, clients, not the other way around.
Yeah, it's fascinating. And I speak from a perspective where it sounds like I've got everything under control and I'm this super genius and I did everything the exact way that Brian just described, but it's not true. I don't want to say it's the complete opposite, but it almost was. Not in the exact order, but started the business for hundreds of reasons, just wanted income for my family right away. So I was doing anything that slightly resembled marketing online. I landed on my feet quickly because of it, which was good. But then also I was so scattered all the time, and I wasn't paying attention to my life. And I was so stressed out because I was trying to learn how to do these things, how to fulfill them, how to execute them, how to sell stuff, how to run my business. And I was not there. I was not connected to the actual world that I live in. And then I think I had to take a step back and then focus more so on that / the culture, to sort of stabilize things in that regard. And now the focus for me in the next year specifically would be more culture and more the clients that I want to work with. And that's something that I've been thinking about and working towards this year, and it's happening. There is like a very nice shift happening, but there's still a ton of work that has to happen. I don't think it's easy. I don't think it's, I'm not going to argue with you, but I think it's still hard to say like, okay, this is the client that I want to work with. And like you put them in a little box and then you just not wait, but you're doing marketing, you're doing these things to try to get those specific clients. It's scary because you're going to have other opportunities that come up that don't fit that little mold and box, and it's not going to fit exactly how you want it. You just honestly, sometimes you just need money. You need the business.
Oh yeah. And this is, I'm not saying, oh, this is easy stuff or that everyone could do it right away, but it needs to be a cycle where you realize you're designing it. And sometimes it is intentional, especially when you start out. It usually starts with that, okay, crap, I need clients. What can I do for them? Right. So you can get in that trap of by default fairly easy, but at some point you've got to sort of push the other way and, build it by design, realize it's a choice, not just get stuck being like, well, that's just the way it is. Like, I'm 5 years into this business. I haven't made any money yet, and I'm missing my kids growing up. Like, that's a conscious choice. And it doesn't need to be that way. It's not easy. We can help people get out of that trap. And, sometimes it's short term by design. Hey, I'm going to take everyone I can. I'm going to, learn what's out there, but then I'm going to make changes for it, or I'm going to tweak my marketing to only take this type of ideal customer. But hey, I'll take some other ones sort of while I'm at it, but realizing that, that's by design and it's ever evolving.
Yeah. And I think last year, my mantra in my head, or the thing that I kept forcing myself to intentionally think about, was, is this bringing value to the situation? Whenever I was doing something, am I bringing value to what I'm doing here? I don't know if this is just me, but I don't think I brought value to more than 10% of the things that I was doing. And I think that honestly, if business owners really are critical, they will find a very similar number. So I spent all last year thinking, am I bringing value to this work? Or can somebody else do this? And I find the 10% of things that I do bring value to. And that's served me very well. I would honestly now, having had this conversation for the last almost 30 minutes with you, this is going to be like my new thing that I'm thinking about this whole year, is reminding myself that my business is by design, and thinking about those, I think you said 4 different pillars there. And I honestly think like I will be in such a better headspace at the end of the year. I already am in a good headspace, but a year from now, looking back, thinking, wow, this now truly is by design. Nothing is by default.
Awesome. I love it. That's a great thought for us to finish on. If you would like to have a discussion with us about your business and how you can make it business by design, we would love to do that. Reach out to us, set it up at kawarthasmallbusinesspodcast.ca.